Hi everyone, it's Marla at Twinstrology. This is going to be part 2 of a message that I wrote earlier in the week called Message from Lilith, It's Time to Heal Separation. That article was based on some information that I channeled from the goddess Lilith about how it's time for us to heal the separation wound. And in it, Lilith talked about her experience with separation, her separation from Adam, being thrown out of the Garden of Eden, the pain and rage that she felt because of that separation, and that she was ready now to let the feeling of separation go. It's time to end this. It's time to heal this wound because we cannot move forward in our ascension process until we heal this. Separation does not exist in the higher dimensional frequencies. It's a third dimensional frequency. It's polarity. So in order to advance, in order to reach union, we need to heal this idea of separation. And by union, I mean union with all that is. Not just your twin flame union, although your situation with your twin flame definitely is playing a role here, and you're playing a role in the healing of this state of consciousness, because that is what this really is. It's a state of consciousness, a third dimensional level of consciousness. And we're being called now, it's time in the ascension process to move past this. What they told me was that you cannot heal separation by being in union. You heal separation through feeling the exquisite pain of the separation and moving beyond it. And it's when we move beyond it that union becomes possible. Up until then, our state of consciousness is continually, what is the word I'm looking for? Our state of consciousness is continually sending out intentions of separation, right? Because our state of consciousness is our level of course, I'm drawing a blank now. Our state of consciousness dictates what we express externally in our world. Our state of consciousness is our inner world, and it's what we hold within that expresses without. Has within, so without. And so that is why it's been impossible for us to move to a state of union, because our consciousness is holding on to separation. So now Lilith has come forward to say it's time to heal this. Of course, we have other myths, other stories that relate to these feelings of separation. It just so happened that Lilith was the one that came to me. But Lilith is important to what's going on because Lilith is making a conjunction with the South Node. And that is why I feel her energy is so much forward right now. Because on the South Node, this is the past. This is our karmic story. So as she comes into the South Node, it's that feeling of separation, the pain that we experience from it, the rage is coming up within us. As I said, we need to feel the separation intensely. That will push us to move beyond it. So that was primarily why Lilith was here. And this video is meant to be what is happening astrologically that's helping us shift out of this state of consciousness. There's a lot of things going on, but I'm going to talk about 3 major things. Something that I channeled today when I was in meditation was the message that we keep trying to align the external world to make us feel whole, but that can never work. We must heal and align the inner world to create the external world. This is the process of realignment that we are going through right now. And this is a message that I'm sure we all are aware of. I've gotten this message several times and I've written about it. And that is that things cannot manifest externally from us. We have to make the shift within. And things manifest from the higher dimensions first and come down. You cannot manifest something in the 3D and then bring it up into the higher dimensions. So that saying, has within, so without, has above, so below. This saying has been coming to me again and again and again recently. A constant reminder, what we think, who we are inside, what our state of consciousness is what is reflected externally to us. So some of the things that I wrote about in my article, I want to just mention something here because I think it triggered a lot of people, where it was said that we were needing to surrender to the feminine energy, because it's through the feminine energy that we're going to heal this wound. Okay, and I think a lot of people misunderstood that, or a lot of people were triggered by the use of the word surrender. And maybe that wasn't really a great word to use. But let me try to explain this further from what I'm being shown. Because it's not that the feminine is better or that the feminine is trying to overpower the masculine. That's not it at all, because everything involves around balance. Well, let me start by saying this, that we must always remember that the masculine and feminine are within us. Has within, so without. Is a little bit of a disservice happens in the twin flame community when we're constantly talking about the divine feminine and the divine masculine. And so there's this such strong separation has been developed through that process within our state of consciousness. And the more that we keep looking at the divine feminine, the divine masculine separately, the more we just continue to enforce this within our being. And it becomes confusing then, because a lot of when I'm talking about the divine masculine and feminine, I'm talking about what's inside of us, not about you and your twin flame dynamic. Always what's within is reflected in what's without. So that's the first thing that I want to make clear. We have to stop reinforcing this separation with the terminology. And it's difficult because, I'm not sure what else we're going to use. I know at one point I was told to use twin 1 and twin 2 because of this very reason, that we're continually reinforcing this separation over and over again. But there's a little bit of a language barrier is set up there. And so part of what I was saying with that, the feminine needs to surrender to the masculine, or I'm sorry, the masculine needs to surrender to the feminine to create healing, was that we're needing to raise our feminine energy within us right now. Yes, we're going for balance, but at this point in time, there's a need to slightly increase the divine feminine over the masculine to bring forth healing. And this healing is going to realign the masculine and feminine into balance. So it's not that one becomes dominant and one becomes subordinate. It's not it at all. How could that ever create union? Doesn't even make sense. But what we need to consider is that the divine feminine has been denigrated to the point of practically being written out of our history and written out of our human consciousness for thousands of years. The qualities of the divine feminine have not been praised. And so there has been an imbalance where the masculine energy has been overshadowing the feminine. And that is true of within us. Slowly we've separated ourselves from a lot of divine aspects of ourselves. Not everything, of course. We're always fluctuating between our divine feminine and masculine throughout the day. They're both needed, but there are some aspects of the divine feminine as it relates to creating your reality that needs to be raised up now. This is that feeling that I talked about in the article of being in the void, of creating the energy of the womb, of doing nothing, of just sitting in silence, being a channel for spirit, tuning into your heart so that you can get to the place of unconditional love, because that unconditional love is needed right now to heal things. And, remember, guys, the divine feminine did not get to this stage until the divine masculine was reborn. Because they work hand in hand, and the divine feminine needed the divine masculine's energy, the things that the divine masculine represents, the energy of protection, of support, of being able to express herself outwardly. We couldn't reach this stage without the rebirth of divine masculine. I think I talked about this in my video about the high priestess energy that I did with Louisa Rasso. Because the high priestess, remember, is the embodiment of the goddess on earth. But how could we bring that strength to ourselves without having the support of the divine masculine? Let me just flip here to this chart of the divine feminine and divine masculine energy so you can see this a little bit clearer. So the divine feminine is needing to be raised up. Look at the qualities of the feminine energy. Receptive, passive, contractive, intuitive, inward, unconditional love, understanding, nurturing, tenderness, intuitiveness, feeling, stillness, surrender, allowing. These are the qualities that we need to bring up a little bit now, as I said, to do the healing of the divine masculine. So it's not that the divine feminine is needing to be more empowered or is taking power away from the masculine. No, it's through the love, the healing, the understanding of the divine feminine that the divine masculine is healed. Now, take what I just said and apply that to yourself, because that's what I'm talking about. As was channeled to me, it's not necessary for the divine feminine to heal her divine masculine externally. What I mean by that is you don't need to send all your energy to the masculine right now, to your masculine counterpart. This is about us healing from within. And when we heal within, what happens? You guessed it. Then we heal externally. All we have to do is work on healing ourselves, forgiving ourselves, healing our own inner masculine so that we come into a balanced state. As within, so without. The Mars retrograde was very important for this, and we needed Mars retrograde to go first to pull back our masculine energy so that we could tune in more to the divine feminine. You know, the divine feminine and masculine, do you see how they've been working together to allow this to happen? Let's take a look at the masculine energy. Projective, active, giving, expansive, outward, confidence, strength, responsibility, focus, logic, support, stability, protection, clarity, boundaries, courage. We have not lost our masculine energy, because as we step more into the feminine, we're needing those masculine qualities to protect our energy. Because without the masculine strength, without his protection, without the ability to set boundaries, without the ability to have, some kind of discipline here, we wouldn't be able to be in the state of the divine feminine, right? Because we could get into so much unconditional love, so much nurturing energy, dissolve so much boundaries, that we would just be giving all our energy away. People would be taking advantage of us. That's the expression of the wounded feminine. Okay, this is not what we're doing. We are becoming empowered. So it's not that we've lost the masculine. We are using both, but it's just that we're bringing forward some aspects of the feminine to create this ability to heal. This is a big initiation process that we're going through, and a very important one. So let's take a look at some of the things that are happening astrologically that are helping us shift into this energy. And I want to say that this energy has been coming forward for a while, definitely since the summer solstice, but I think before that, we've been coming into the sense that we need to heal this wound. And why is this wound coming up right now? Well, again, astrologically, we have the North Node traveling through Leo, which is all about getting into our hearts, right? Being in that state of unconditional love, being in that state of creativity. The North Node is going to be shifting, I think November 16th into the sign of Cancer. Okay, so we're coming towards the end of this transit. This transit has been about opening our hearts and being in that state of unconditional love. But when we are dealing with this wound of separation, we can't fully get into our hearts. Very hard to keep your heart open all the time when your state of consciousness sees separation and you're projecting that into your outer world. Because how can you open your heart to even your twin flame when your consciousness is saying, that person's going to abandon you, that person's going to leave you, don't open your heart. Okay, and you're putting that out there. So this wound is coming up now to prepare for this shift and to get us to be more in our heart space in an unconditional sense, meaning open-hearted without expectation of what the other person is going to do. This is how we're going to shift our consciousness. So one of the things that we have coming up is Venus retrograde. Okay, Mars has been retrograde, as I said. He needed to go into his retrograde first so we could bring the masculine energy back a little bit. Because, I'm not sure if I clarified this, but all of us, whether we're in a male or female body, have been too heavily focused on the masculine energy just because of the control that's been put upon us and this sense of polarity, and it's been difficult to get into that state of unconditional love with the fears and the forces that be, the darker forces, have not wanted us to access this, or we haven't been able to access it from the third dimensional frequency. So now we have Venus going retrograde at the beginning of October. And her retrograde is going to be primarily in the sign of Scorpio. She's going to 10 degrees Scorpio, then she's turning around and she's going back to 25 degrees of Libra. So the masculine has had their turn. The masculine energy has had its turn going retrograde over the South Node. And this has function, has healing some past life wounds that have kept us in separation as far as our masculine energy. Now we have Venus going retrograde. She's in the sign of Scorpio. What is Scorpio? The underworld, our shadow self, our painful wounds that we don't want to look at, our secrets. And Venus is going to be squaring the South Node. So as she's retrograde, we're going to be churning things up that have kept us in the state of separation. What are our fears? Where have we felt abandoned? Where have we let the pain and trauma tell stories to ourselves? This has created an imbalance in the feminine. So we're trying to heal that, just like we did with the masculine. Venus is going back to Libra. And what I keep being shown is the scales. Okay, this is bringing us back into balance. Venus, through her retrograde, squaring the nodes. Right now, she's squaring Mars. And she's going to be squaring Mars for a while. So this is, again, we're feeling the separation through that square energy. Unfortunately, we have to feel it to heal it. We've got to see where that wound has been hiding, because we have not wanted to look at that wound. It's too painful. We've been trying to bury it. And our ego has wanted to hold on to this sense of separation so that we could make ourselves right. Another important aspect that's going on here is Venus is opposite Uranus throughout her retrograde too. Just as Mars was squaring Uranus, and Mars is squaring Uranus now. What we have is a fixed cross aspect going on. The North and South Node, Mars, Black Moon Lilith, squaring Uranus and Venus. And so Uranus, as I've talked about before, Uranus and Taurus, one of the things it's doing is helping us heal trauma that we've experienced, especially in past lives. One of the things that Uranus represents is our deep memory. Uranus is a higher octave of Mercury, and it's through Uranus that we can remember things like our past lives. We can remember ancient wisdom. We can remember who we are on a soul level. But Uranus also represents where we've had shock, trauma, massive change. And so there's pain stored within Uranus. That's why it's an important aspect for what is going on right now and how Uranus was aspecting both Venus and Mars throughout the retrogrades. Also, Lilith, went through her square to Uranus too. That was bringing up more of those feelings of the trauma. And, there's all different ways we can experience this. Some of us might remember past lives. Some of us might feel the collective energy. Some of us might be experiencing things in our current reality that's making us feel separation. I think a lot of people have been feeling separation from their twin flame pretty intensely. But also there's a sense of moving beyond that pain right now. This is how we're coming into the surrender mode. And I think many of you will agree that these planetary alignments and the healing of this energy, the realignment of the masculine and feminine, is bringing us into this state of surrender that we've never seen before. And that's because of the growth of our divine feminine energy. Because before we were sitting in the masculine energy, as we talked about, is about taking action. It's about doing, pushing, right? And so this whole time, a lot of us have been in the masculine, and there's, you want to push for your twin. You want to make something happen with them. And so you're always trying to reach out to them. You're always trying to get them to see your point of view. Goes back to what I said at the beginning, how we've been wanting to try to align the external world to make us feel whole inside. And so the masculine wants to push and take action in the external world to make us feel the sense of safety, to make us, make things align that we're wanting. And for many of you, that's union. But how did that work out for you? For most of you, I'm going to say not very well. Because the more you try to push at your twin flame union, the more it eludes you. The more your twin runs away. Because it's an inner process. It's not an external process. And so we're needing to raise our feminine. We're needing to sit back. We're needing to surrender. We're needing to trust in the divine energies. There's nothing that we need to do right now. We just need to let things align according to the divine plan. And so here we are now finding ourselves in this place of surrender and detachment. Just roll with that energy right now. That's what's called for. This is what is helping us shift, because this detachment or this going within is what helps us see our level of consciousness, to connect with the higher frequencies, to get the directions that we need. Now, this energy doesn't just apply to your twin flame union, but to whatever you're creating, whatever you're trying to manifest. It's been difficult for a lot of us. Honestly, it's been difficult for me because there's a lot of things that I want to manifest in my life. There's a lot of things that I've been envisioning, but I keep getting told it's not time to do anything about that. It's not time to move forward. It's not time to take action. But when we're so used to being in that masculine energy, you think, well, if I don't take action, how is this ever going to get done? How am I ever going to get anywhere? And so it messes with our mind, our logical mind, in the sense of how can you manifest something when you're not doing anything about it? We're just sitting there like daydreaming. But this is how we're evolving. We're evolving out of the matrix, where everything is based on karmic patterns, and we're becoming creators. And as creators, we just need to focus on our desires and our intentions right now. There will be a time to take action, and we'll be shown that. Now, you have to use your own discernment with that, because I'm not telling everybody, do nothing. I'm not saying don't go to work tomorrow, or, if you feel called to do something, then do it. What I mean to say is there's no need to push for things. And if you feel like you're pushing for something, then think about that, because it's in this energy of surrender where we are becoming the womb, and it's in this womb where our creation's going to manifest. So I've gone off on a tangent now. I'm like, oh, how do I get back to what I was talking about astrologically? So we're needing to heal these old experiences to allow this new energy to come in. As I said, this is just bringing us into balance. And when we reach that state of balance, then it'll be time to take action. But this void, this is where the magic is happening. This is where the timelines are shifting. This is where the inspiration is coming to us. Right? And I talked about that today in my new moon video. Inspiration, because Neptune was on the Sabian symbol about inspiration and creativity. Inspiration is the energy, source energy flowing through us. And if we're too active, if we're pushing too much, then it's hard for us to feel that inspiration. So There's a time and a place for everything, and it's going to be a bit of a relearning process as we get back to our creative flow. The reason that I've chosen this chart is because there's another aspect that's happening with this Venus retrograde. I mean, there's a lot of aspects, right? We have basically this grand fixed cross, as I talked about, with all these energies going on. Now, it's a cross, okay? So there's some tension aspects. We're needing to create alignment of these energies within, but in order to do that, as I mentioned, we're probably going to be, feeling the separation, feeling negativity, as we're, in this divine feminine flow. We might be questioning ourselves. We might be experiencing doubts. We might feel that Neptune influence and wonder if, we're making things up. These are things that we're having to learn. We're having to work through. It's part of our initiation. So the reason I chose this day, which is September 27th, this is another 9911 day, as tomorrow is a 9911 day. 9911, as I said earlier in my other video, what I channeled for the meaning of that is abundance is flowing to you. You are being guided. Be open to receiving. And so we know that the universe is wanting to deliver our desires to us. We have to be open to receiving. That energy is the feminine energy. Being in the flow of abundance and just allowing these things to come to us. As I said in my article, it's hard for us to be in this space when our society teaches us that if you want something, you've got to go out and get it. You've got to take it. But that's overly aggressive. We push things away when we're in that aggressive energy. Okay, just like when we go at our twin flames so aggressively and we push them away energetically, and we call that running. That can happen in the other way we're trying to create things. We can go at it so hard that we push it away. When we're in that energy, we're in a kind of a fear that thing's not coming to us, that we got to grab it instead of trusting. So the reason I chose this day is because the asteroid Union is conjunct the North Node on this day. And this is important to that fixed cross configuration. Also on that day, we have the moon traveling through the cross. And we have asteroid Atlantis taking part in that cross. Atlantis is going to be traveling with Venus. And the asteroid Atlantis here is again confirming that this is what we're doing, because the separation of the masculine and feminine was part of Atlantis. It was due to the fall of Atlantis. And when we fell and we shifted into the third dimensional frequency and into the polarity consciousness, it's where twin flames felt separation for the first time. And that's been our wound ever since. So this is a pretty amazing configuration that we have going on, because we've got the past life stuff coming in. We have the trauma experience. We have the tension between the masculine and feminine. We have Black Moon Lilith there, representing the feminine wound, her pain and her rage at being disenfranchised. And then on the other side, the North Node, where we're going, our future, is conjunct asteroid Union. Guys, this is showing us that we're healing this wound. And that inner union is in our future. And so this is helping us shift our consciousness out into the fifth dimensional frequency. I'm just looking here. There's something else maybe I want to talk about. As I said, the big thing that we're now looking towards over the next couple months that's helping us is this Venus retrograde. And so that was the primary thing that I wanted to focus on. But since I'm talking about union in the North Node, we have this other configuration here, and that's a Yod. With the North Node in union, sextiling Valentine. Valentine represents unconditional love. And both of them are forming an in conjunction, making the point to Saturn, who is conjunct Vesta. And this energy is helping us with the purification process, with moving past our limitations, and being able to actually ground these new energies of union. And again, I want to emphasize that it's a union within. It's not to say that some of you won't come into union, okay? But make this your motto. Has within, so without. It's your state of consciousness that's going to dictate when external union happens. Although I will say that when I tuned into the frequency of what's happening around this day, there's definitely some communication wanting to be held between the partners. So for some of you, you might experience at least a connection or a conversation with your twin. Because that's being felt by me strongly. The Venus retrograde is really, really bringing in transformative energies and a sense of a new beginning happening. Of course, there's a lot of things going on astrologically, but my videos are long enough as it is. If I tried to talk about everything, I could be sitting here for hours and hours. So I chose 3 things that I wanted to talk about, but it's that Venus retrograde is so, it's a bit convoluted with all the other aspects that are going on around it. But, really amazing energy with that Venus retrograde. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that you aren't going to be doing some clearing, because Venus retrograde and Scorpio making these aspects, we need to clear, but don't go into fear over the clearing, because that attachment to the negativity increases the negative feelings. See it has a chance for you to transform, to make changes in your life, to have a new beginning, to bring yourself into wholeness and balance, and eye it with excitement for what is to come, and for excitement with what's going on with the ascension process. So we have the Venus retrograde. We have union conjunct the North Node. The third thing that I want to talk about is Isis and Osiris are making a conjunction. The asteroids Isis and Osiris. This was talked about in the channeled message that I did. Okay, because it's through this energy of Isis that we're going to heal. The unconditional love. That is what I mean by the energy of Isis. A lot of us in the twin flame community have been initiates of Isis. We understand how to do this because we've been taught how to bring the masculine and feminine into alignment in other lifetimes, how to bypass the 3D and hold ourselves in the frequency of unconditional love. And so we can be way showers for this, for bringing these energies into balance. The Isis and Osiris conjunction is starting on October 28th, and they'll be conjunct on a couple degrees. It'll be, I think it'll be like a week or two that they're making their conjunction. But the energies are starting to be felt already, because even though they're not in a exact conjunction, which means they're on the same degree, they are, I think they're about 5 degrees apart right now. I feel the energies are being felt, even though they're 5 degrees. Generally with asteroids, people like to use a very small orb or degree of separation. Personally, I use 4 degrees with asteroids. Some people might think that's a lot, but the way that I use asteroids as far as channeling messages through them, 4 degrees works for me. So I feel we're already feeling this conjunction happening. And a little bit after their exact conjunction, they'll still be in range of each other. This is the universe's way of showing us that this energy is healing by having these 2 asteroids come into conjunction at this time. So in the myth of Isis and Osiris, Isis, we can see Isis as the divine feminine. Okay, let's see, how am I going to talk about this? Okay, well, most of you are probably familiar with the myth. And Isis and Osiris's brother, Set, is jealous, and he kills Osiris. He cuts Osiris up into pieces and separates his body. Isis travels around the world finding Osiris's pieces, brings him back together, and heals him. She finds everything except his penis. She makes a golden phallus, and they go into union, and it's from that union that Horus is conceived. So that is the basic myth. So Isis and Osiris, to me, represent twin flames. They're both brother and sister and husband and wife, which to me, I don't look at it as being incestuous. I look at it as being that soul connection. Like they're one soul. They're twins. What are twins? Twins are siblings, right? And so just the fact that they're brother and sister and husband and wife is a bit of a metaphor of twin flames. But let's step back from this myth a bit and let's look at Isis as being the divine feminine energy and Osiris as being the divine masculine energy. And now they've been separated. And Set represents the patriarchal forces. And the patriarchal forces come in and they disrupt the divine masculine energy. They fragment the divine masculine energy, just as Set cut up Osiris and fragmented him. Yet, the love of Isis, the love of the divine feminine, heals the fractured masculine, makes him whole again. And they enter into a state of union, a state of oneness. And from that oneness, their creation is manifested, because it's through the balance of the masculine and feminine in union that we manifest, right? And so this myth can be seen as a metaphor for creating with the masculine and feminine energies, and that's why it's important to what's happening right now. We're healing the fragmentation within us so that we can reach union. And if you look, here's asteroid Horus. Horus is on the North Node. Horus is representing what is created from the union of Isis and Osiris. And there it is on the North Node. This is a sign from Spirit that your creations are beginning to be birthed. So again, as I've said already, it's not about one being better. It's not about, oh, Isis heals Osiris. She's better than him. It's coming from a place of unconditional love. And when we stop looking at it as an external process, when we stop looking at it as, I'm the feminine twin and I have to heal my masculine twin, and start looking at it as, I've got to heal my inner masculine, I've got to create balance of my inner masculine and feminine, then it takes that ego out of the equation. Okay, it's not about, I've got to help somebody, I've got to save somebody. That is the wounded feminine that we talked about. All right, I think I'm going to end it there. I think I've said more than I probably needed to say. But this is exciting times that we're moving into. And a lot of growth is occurring. And we just need to surrender to everything that's happening. So thank you so much, guys. I hope that this video was helpful to you. If you would like a personal reading with me, you can visit my website, which is twinstrology.com. Don't forget, we're having the Twinfinity Twin Flame Divine Partner Workshop in Banff, Alberta, Canada, October 5th through the 8th. This is actually the weekend that Venus goes retrograde. And so it was going to be a great way to help yourself come into a state of balance, to raise your frequency. Because believe me, when you get a bunch of twin flames in the room, it's going to raise your frequency. Yeah. So if you would enjoy that, if you feel called to that, I will put the link in the comments of this video, or you can also find out more information about that on my website. Thank you guys so much. I love you, and I look forward to chatting with you again.